What is going on, everybody? It's your boy John, and welcome back to Gearbox. So today, of course, we are in a format that is different from our typical videos, either doing an install, driving a car, whatever. We are sitting at my home office, and we're gonna just have a conversation, and a good conversation at that. Today is a very exciting video as far as I'm concerned, and a very exciting time for us car enthusiasts. Obviously, title and thumbnail are going to tell you that we're talking about SEMA. This time of year is always super special to me for a multitude of reasons. One, college football, or just football in general. Two, it starts to get colder outside, i.e. fall. And three, we have the SEMA show. Now, if you have been living under a rock for any period of time, you may or may not know what SEMA is. A trade show that is more or less all automotive based, whether we're talking JDM, American, trucks, cars, whatever, you name it, the biggest of the biggest names are at the SEMA show. And with SEMA comes a lot of new releases, comes a lot of cool cars, cool builds, all over the place from all over the world. And for basically 1 week out of the year, everyone settles in Las Vegas, Nevada, which I believe starts like November 5th or something. But they're there to show off their new stuff, their new builds, etc. So really, with the SEMA show, and I just want to talk about it. I have nothing in particular specifically that I want to talk about necessarily, but I just think the SEMA show is super, super cool. Obviously, you have your Edelbrocks of the world, you have your Fords, you have your HKSs, you have your Magnaflows, you've got your Maguires, you got all the big players, both in, car manufacturing stuff, you have the aftermarket stuff, you have the detailing stuff, you have literally anything you can possibly believe in all of those companies that are involved in those conversations that are at SEMA, right? And they're showcasing what they've got and the people that they've partnered up with and so on and so forth. And that's really, really cool. But what's also really cool about SEMA is that people start to release their new stuff. SEMA to a lot of people is the beginning of the next fiscal year, so to speak, for what their brand, what their company has to offer. And with that comes a lot of cool point blank period. Once again, whether we're talking performance, whether we're talking detailing, whether we're talking wheels, whether we're talking tires, whatever, this is the place to be. If you are, the who's who of the automotive industry, this is the place that you're at. Just as a little tidbit of information, I did see that, I forget who's releasing it, but I believe it's a 1967 maybe Chevy, American street car, hot rod type of deal, is being transformed, or has been transformed, as we can assume at this point in time, into an electric vehicle, which, I don't know. In my mind, it's kind of bastardizing the whole idea of American muscle, but to each their own. It's really, really cool shit, and props to all of the people and the engineers and the man hours, blood, sweat, and tears, whatever you want to call it, that go into creating such an awesome piece of machinery, although it isn't necessarily my cup of tea, or obviously the intention of the original builders of said Chevy or whatever it is. That's pretty cool. And that's where I think that SEMA just shines through 10 out of 10 times, especially when we're talking about some, YouTubers such as TJ Hunt, Adam LZ, Whistling Diesel, the list goes on and on and on of all of these really, really cool builds that people are doing with the help of sponsors to, really push the limits of what the car community has to offer. Me, myself, and we're working with a 2019 F-150 that might as well be stock, and a Toyota Supra that isn't stock, but isn't necessarily, groundbreaking either. It's not exactly a super unique platform or a unique set of mods that go to it. It's pretty textbook as far as I'm concerned, and I'm okay with that. But one day down the road, whenever that might be, I would love to be approached by some of these amazing companies. And I don't care who you are, what you do, these companies are really pushing the limits from an automotive standpoint and allowing these builds and this ingenuity to really come through, which in my opinion is a really, really cool thing with the automotive industry. It's just not really seen elsewhere as far as I'm concerned. For example, some of you guys may know this, probably not, except for my few coworkers that may or may not be watching this, but I'm in tech sales. Specifically, I work for a cloud technology company, do a lot of different stuff, but ultimately cloud is where we operate. And the tech industry in a lot of ways is pretty similar to the automotive industry, but in a lot of ways it's not. But the ways that it is very, very similar is that everyone is always pushing the limits and developing and thinking of new things on how to leverage cloud technology and how can we ultimately better our lives with cloud technology to then go into this side of business or that side of business or your personal life or whatever. And the automotive industry is doing a lot of the same things. Great example of this, MagnaFlow. Okay, this is off the cuff, just going for it. As we all know, exhaust systems, specifically aftermarket exhaust systems, are a work of beauty, right? Whether we're talking the welding that goes into it, whether we're talking the sound and acoustic side of things and the engineering that goes into not having drone that just blows your head off. There's a lot of engineering that goes into that. But one of the biggest advances in exhaust, in my opinion, has been by MagnaFlow, by Valvetronic, and I'm sure there are a couple handful of other exhausts out there. I'm pretty limited in my JDM's perspective, but maintaining the factory valve setting, for example, right? When you think about it in a hindsight perspective, hindsight being 2020, not that hard to conceptualize. You're like, so, let's say we bolt up this piece of metal, this piece of titanium, and we make the car sound better and all the air flow better, but what if we kept the factory valve to keep it tame when you want to keep it tame and to keep it pretty damn rowdy when you want it to be rowdy? Who would have thought, right? MagnaFlow is obviously at the top of my mind, having just put the X-Mod MagnaFlow exhaust on the Mark V Supra, but that's one of many examples of what goes on at the SEMA show. Turbochargers, superchargers, intercoolers, exhaust, wheels, tires, ECUs, tunes, whatever. External parts, body kits, detailing products, interior parts, steering wheels. That SEMA, the stuff that we see after the fact, has all been released at SEMA. And I know it probably sounds like I'm going on just a complete and utter tangent, and in a lot of ways I am, but I'm really passionate about it. And I think that trade show in of itself is just so cool. When I go to trade shows in my profession, it's a lot of the same shit over and over again. And that's not to say that technology doesn't evolve or doesn't change over time. I mean, that happens. And I love the tech industry for that. But, There's no such thing, as far as I'm concerned, in the tech industry where there is a trade show where this is your end-all be-all. This is where you release every little thing you've been working on for 12 calendar months to wow the world and to sell yourself even more to the public, because it's such a crazy industry. But the automotive industry has found a way to do that. Outside of all of that sort of stuff and the geeky, techie, whatever, you get some damn cool builds, right? Whether you're talking about, I think it was last year, there was a McLaren P1 that was tubed out, just straight up race car. Who in their right mind takes a multi-million-dollar car, tears everything out of it, tubes it up and says, here we are. This is what I want to do. I'm working with this company. We're going to make this 1,000+ horsepower car or whatever it was, and go for it. No one. Literally no one. You cannot do that without the backing of amazing companies that have your back and want to see you succeed, but more importantly, succeed with the products and the services that those companies offer. I just think that is so cool, and it's gotta be such an amazing experience walking through the halls or the big conference room of SEMA, seeing all the cars, all the build, all the artistic ability, however we want to put it. I mean, I really can't put into words how I would feel walking through SEMA. And like I said, one day I'm going to be there, mark it right here, right now. Today's not that day, or this year is not that year, but by God, I'm going to make it there one day. And I cannot wait to be a part of, the progression of the automotive industry and inspiring, all these sorts of people with what I'm doing or what other people are doing to keep the car community alive. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. A lot of times nowadays, especially, when politics get involved, and I'm not going to get into that necessarily, there's so much against car people. And I'm not talking about the frickin' takeovers and all that shit. Screw those people. They don't even deserve a second of my airtime. But I'm talking about the people that are busting their ass and restoring cars and just doing really, really cool stuff that no one else is doing. Props to those people, because those people are the same people that are continuing to sell those parts and continuing to show that, the car culture, so to speak, is an untapped market. And really a car is just the canvas that the painter uses, the painter being the builder, to make it their own. And that's really something that I've taken, to heart with all of my cars. And it doesn't need to be something crazy. I don't care if you're rolling around in a Corolla, if you make it your own in some way, shape, or form, to where if you walk out into a parking lot with 1,000 other Corollas and you're like, that's mine right there. To me, that's cool. And to me, that's aftermarket. And that's what aftermarket stuff is all about. You're able to personalize it and to really have your car be an extension to your personality. To be able to share this with a very, relatively speaking, little audience that I have on YouTube, to say, you too can do that, and you too can make it, your own, and march to the beat of your own drum. That's what the car community is all about. There's so many negative people in this world that will always have something to say about what you do and how you do it and whatever. I would say, but I'm not going to, because you get it, right? Do what you want to do, and don't let anyone ever, and this doesn't just apply to cars, this doesn't apply to your job or your relationship or whatever. Don't let anyone rain on your parade. because those people are just having a shitty life themselves and they just want to bring people down. Don't get brought down by that. Anyway, to bring it back to SEMA, all of these things that we do and we do to our cars and we obsess about and have some sort of friendship or culture around when it comes to the automotive industry is all based in SEMA. And I just think that is so cool. Once again, I'm just speaking it into existence here. I hope one day I can go there, not as a spectator, but as a legitimate influence in this world. And come hell or high water, we're gonna make it happen. Point blank, period. Anyway, we're gonna end it there, guys. Once again, I appreciate you coming back to another episode of Gearbox. If you are pumped for SEMA season and all of the amazing content that's gonna come from it, please give this video a big fat thumbs up. Once all of that content comes out, drop a comment down below of your favorite build or your favorite release or whatever it might be. I would love to hear all of that, or hell, even what are you anticipating happening at SEMA? As this video is dropped right here, right now, before the show, what do you think's coming? And what are you most excited about? And as always, guys, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. You know the drill. And until next time, peace.